Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. It's still sunny outside, so I can wait to get my sketchbook and go to the park to draw animals and plants. I would like to acknowledge that Richmond is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. So we are guests in this territory, and for this, we are grateful. We're also very grateful to the Richmond Nature Park because they are offering this to you for free, and that's wonderful. So without further ado, let's start, shall we? So I've been collecting pine cones. I love walking and collecting pine cones that have fallen from the trees. So let me show you what I have found. So I have found so many different pine cones. This is very tiny. This is super tiny, super cute. And it has kind of a cone shape, like a triangle. And I just want you to remember this pine cone, because you see how open it all is. Like it's like almost as if she's like opening to give us a hug. Well, guess what? First thing I'm going to do, I'm put it in water and I'm going to let it there. And I'm going to put it here aside. And you're going to be like, why? Well, you'll see. Let's leave it there. And I promise I'll show you once when we finish, I'll show you what has happened to this pine cone. The second pine cone I found. Oh my gosh, look at this. This is much longer than the previous one. And each of these things are called scales. I can bend them and break them very easily. Then I found this one. This is so different because it has like tiny, tiny things coming out. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. Which one am I going to draw? Then I found this one. And I thought, well, they could get in more interesting as we go. And this one, all the scales, this is longer. And also the scales are I can touch them and bend them and break them if I want to. Yeah, it smells very good too, I have to say. And then I found this one. And I was like, what is this? So I even saw that this one has like sticky. Yeah, what is that? Stickiness attached to it and has started to open while I had it here at home. So I did some research and found that this is from a cedar. This is a sugar pine. This one is a Douglas fir. And I promise you, I still have to go to the nature house because I would like the naturalist there to tell me what is this pine cone coming from. I have no clue. But guess what I did later? I was like, I want to see what's inside. So I cut it in half. So it is some sort of glue. You're absolutely right. It's like a defense mechanism that the tree has to protect against predators, insects. You're absolutely right. It's called resin. I will write it down in a second. And it's so sticky that it's very hard to take out of your hands after you manage to handle the pine cones. I put this pine cone on my bag, and I should have put it on a plastic bag because my bag is now all sticky. When I cut this pine cone, the knife I used all ended with sticky things as well. But I wanted to show you how interesting this is. So I started thinking, what is a pine cone? And it's like a spaceship to me. It's like this spaceship full of openings and windows where the seeds are. So when the temperature is warm and nice and hot, all these scales open and all these seeds are exposed. So I was very curious to know why in winter they close and why in the summer they open. And that's why I'm doing this experiment, because I built a snowman, right? And I had all these pine cones and I used them as buttons. And when I removed them, they were closed. And I was like, this is not the same pine cone I put, but it was. So that's what happens when it's humid and cold, they close. So that's what we're going to see after. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to the Douglas Fir pine cone. That's what we're going to draw today. You thought we were going to draw all of them? Well, maybe one day, but today we only have time for one. And the reason why I would love to draw this one is because of those tiny little things that come out of each of the scales. I just found it so interesting. I don't know if you can see it well, but I know what it reminds me of. And I'm going to show you by drawing. Today, I'm going to use the non-photo blue pencil or any light blue pencil that you have around. And I'm also going to use my graphite pencil. And I have a sharpener because probably something needs sharpening and an eraser. So the thing I want to also point out, like in the previous session, is that if you would like to make your drawing folding the page, like if you have your page and you fold it in half, you could make your drawing here. Like imagine like a super beautiful flower or a pine cone. If you make the drawing here, then you can open it and write a beautiful message, and you can give these to someone as a present. Someone that you love at the end of the year, you can give them your own homemade holiday card with your own drawing. So that's just an idea, and I wanted to pass that along in case you, yeah, it's such a beautiful thing to do. I'm going to do the drawing here, so I have more room, but this is just an idea. The first thing I notice with this Douglas Fir pine cone is that it's very much like an oval, and there's the point where it's joining the tree here, there, and then the point where it's like dancing in the air there. So I'm just going to imagine that the branch is in the top and the tip is at the bottom. There's some sticky business there in the page. You know what? I am going to circle that. This is the resin, and it's sticky and it smells funny. And I don't want to throw away this page. This is perfect. Now I can have the exact same thing right there on the page. So now I change my plans and I'm going to draw it here. How about that? Yeah, always use all these awesome opportunities. If a bug gets on your page, just embrace it. You can keep it on the page. So yeah, let's make a big oval. I'm going to make it bigger than it is. So not to scale, but a little bit bigger. And an oval is just a circle that we have stretched. So in this case, we're stretching it like this. And you can take your time. It's a little bit thicker here and a little bit pointy here. So it's a very special oval. And I'm going to press a little bit harder so you can see it, but you don't have to press as hard. The next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to draw the tiny, tiny stem here. And this, I'm going to just draw, it's a little bit broken, so I'll do the detail after, but at least I know that it's going to be this thick and with a little circle, semicircle there. There we go. So now we know that this is the branch and all the nutrients are going to come from here, because these contains all the seeds. They're so important for the tree. That's how it propagates. So it needs to be very well fed. And then it's like, but there's so many of these things. How am I going to do this? Let's do it together, shall we? If we were to see each of these scales on their own, they would have this shape. But because they are covering each other, we only get to see the very end. So it kind of reminds me a little bit, I don't know you, but it reminds me a little bit of drawing a house and doing the tiles on the roof. And I don't know you, but I love drawing tiles. I always like to make semicircles. And then more semicircles, but moving a little bit so I get to touch each circle differently. So we're going to do that. We're going to draw tiles here, but I'm going to use the non-photo blue because it might be a little bit difficult at the beginning. But let's do it together, okay? We're going to start with a big semicircle here. And I'm going to wait for you. So we go very slowly and we do these together. We're going to draw a semicircle here. And then instead of drawing another one on top, we're going to start here, right here. So I'm going to make another semicircle here. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's going to take us forever. Well, it's a detailed drawing. It's very, very detailed. So it's going to take a little bit of an extra effort, but I know you're amazing. We're going to also, so we started with a circle here and with another semicircle here. The reason why I'm calling it a semicircle and not a circle is because this is a circle. And a semicircle is half of a circle. So let's do another one here. So let's do another one here, the same point there. And now we have, it looks like, you know, like a color. Like, I don't know if you see, let's see. It looks like so many things, but I remember this character, Lucy, and she has her hair like this. And it reminds me a little bit of her color of her blue dress. She always has a blue dress with puffy sleeves. This is my rendition of Lucy. So it reminds me of that color, what we just did right there. So let's do more, shall we? Now we're going to do one in the middle. We're going to go from here until here. Let's do one together. What? And now we're going to finish that line with more curvy lines, one on each side. Yes, from Snoopy. That's very true. That's Lucy. Thank you. So that's Lucy. And her color reminds me of the scales of a pine cone. And she says, hi. Let's do more. Now we're going to do one from here. Do you see the trick? It's like we are alternating. Sometimes we have very small room. Okay, well, let's make a small one. And sometimes we have a lot of room. So we make a big one. But that's also, guess what's starting to remind me of as I'm doing this? Oh my goodness, it's starting to remind me of another of my favorite characters. I don't know if I can draw her very well, but it reminds me of the tail of Ariel, the Little Mermaid. Yay, this is Ariel, and she also says, hello. So it reminds me of these fish scales. I just noticed it's the same word. So fish have scales and pine cones have also scales. What? So Ariel has a lot in common with this pine cone we're doing. So let's finish, shall we? We are making scales in a pine cone. And if you find yourself like, what am I going to do here? Well, let's just we cheat a tiny scale. And as we get to the very tip, which is called the apex, these are going to become smaller. But now these ones here are the big ones. And I'm sure you find out that the bigger you make them, the less you have to make. So that's also a trick. Yes, mermaid tail, that's Ariel. I knew you would know them. Of course. So yeah, it's funny. It reminds me of the tiles of a rooftop, Lucy's color, and Ariel's tail. So that's really cool. I didn't know that things in nature could look so similar one to another. I'm going to cheat a scale there. And as I become closer, not only they're a little bit smaller, but they're less. Suddenly I am left with only a couple. So guess what I'm going to do? 1, 2, and I'm going to leave that. Yeah, I'm not going to draw anything there anymore. I'm just going to leave it like that. And I'm going to move this text here so I have room because I see things. I see things, and I'm going to add detail in a second. So we have our pine cone. Isn't this amazing? I didn't think that we could simplify this because it looks so complicated. But also there's something that I noticed. It's like on each of these scales, there's like a very interesting structure. And I'm going to draw it here so you see it because I don't know. It's very interesting. It's like it has 3 shapes. It's something like this. It's very weird, but it reminds me of something. Can I tell you what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a tiny mouse. It's like this pine cone is covered in tiny mouse that are for some reason hiding, and we only get to see the legs and the tail. So I'm going to try to draw a mouse here from behind. So this is one of the fluffy legs and the tail. It reminds me of a tiny mouse. So it's like, how many mice are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like almost, wow. So many mice. Because that's something I learned, that the plural of mouse is mice. Not mices or mouses. And then I'm going to draw the tiny feet. So I was reading about this, and it's like, has anyone ever seen that this pine cone looks like it has tiny mice in them? And yeah, it is. It is something that this type of pine cones, let's write down that this is the Douglas Fir pine cone is known for. It looks like a mouse. So this structure is called a bract. And it totally looks like a mouse. And guess what? I was reading about it, and there's beautiful stories, and I'm going to try to tell it as best as I can. But let's add our little mice here. And I'm going to switch now to the graphite pencil because I think because it's on top, I'm going to draw the mice, and then we will add the color, the lines of the scale after. Okay. So for example, on each of the scales, let's add the structure. And to make it easy, we're going to draw as if it had 3 triangles. So 1, 2, and 3. Do you see those 3 lines? So it's like Yeah, let's do that. Let's try it together. One short, one long, and one short. And I know it's going to be a lot, so I'm going to start drawing it. One short. The one in the middle, you can curve it a little bit. One short and one short. And I'm going to tell you a story that I read that is amazing. And it's a story that is from First Nations. They narrate this story of how these pine cones ended looking like this. And it's a beautiful story. And I'm so grateful for their oral tradition. So the story goes that there was a big fire in the forest. And all these tiny, tiny mice with their tiny, tiny legs, they couldn't run fast enough. So they were a little bit worried, like, oh, how are we going to make it? And they asked all the trees, like, oh, please help us. Can we hide in your trunk or in your leaves? And none of the trees were very nice. So the mice ended asking the Douglas Fir, like, please let us hide. There's a fire and we just can't run fast enough. And the Douglas Fir was so friendly and said, of course, you can climb up the tree and you can hide in my pine cones. And that's how First Nations explain this beautiful, beautiful shape that is the Douglas Fir cone, pine cone. So I was very, very grateful to read that story because it made so much sense to me. Oh my gosh, so many. I know, right? Well, now that I have all these mice sticking out of the scales, now I can go with the graphite pencil and draw the scales. And because they're behind, I don't have to worry about going over the mouse. The mouse is going to be the one that is on top. And I'm just going over the blue lines. When you reach the edge, a trick is that we're going to eat a little bit. So we are going to eat that tiny bit. So these scales, they're going to look like that. I know this is not an easy project. I am so happy that you are with me because this is the first time I have drawn plants and animals, but I have never drawn a pine cone before. And I'm so happy I'm doing this with you. So yeah, remember the ones at the end, we're just giving it a little dent there. So they are actually, they are inside it. This is called overlapping. They're overlapping each other. Oh my goodness, it's so difficult, so hard work. I know. I also was reading about pine cones and I found very interesting things. A very interesting word that I want to share with you is this, gym. Oh, like the gym. No, it's gymnosperms. This is the type of tree that pine cones come from. And what is a gymnosperm? Well, it means literally naked seed, because the seeds that are inside this pine cone, I'm going to draw you one. I think the squirrel has been here already because there's absolutely no seeds left. So I was late. I'm glad the squirrel got it because, you know, that's what squirrels do. It's winter and you have to get all the seeds you can get. But I was able to find that this is how the seeds look like. Let me put it here and let me draw it for you. If you wanted to draw it together, we can draw it together. We're going to draw a big oval. Mine looks like goo spilling out of the pine cone. That's fine. It's, you know what? That's what it looks like to you. And I'm going to put here, it also looks like goo. Absolutely. Because for some, there's so many different ways that we see things. And I'm so glad that you shared that. Thank you. Because for some people, it looks like mice. And for some people, it might look like a tiny mouse. So thank you for sharing that. Let's do the seed. Let's do another oval. And look at that. I'm overlapping them. What? I have a big oval and a tiny oval. And then I'm going to switch to my graphite pencil. And I'm going to draw a wing. So I'm going to go around. And I'm going to join them both together on one side. But on the other side, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to make a curve here and just join the seed. So on one end, the line is kind of merged. And on the other one, I have a tiny curve. So you're absolutely right. This is the seed. And this is the wing. And I didn't know that seeds could have wings like a bird. So the seed, when the pine cone opens, all the seeds fall into the ground. And probably you've seen them. They fly like pew, 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 and they fall into the ground. If they didn't have a wing, they would just fall right. Imagine that this is the tree, the pine. Imagine this is our pine tree. And all the seeds, they just fall here. Pop, 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 pop. Well, how boring is that? Also, these tiny seeds are not going to be able to compete with this big tree. So it's in its best interest that these seeds have wings so they can fly away and go to another distant location. So they don't compete and he gets to expand and propagate. So that's why wings are so important for the seed. That's probably our seed right there, tiny. Pew, 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 pew. So the wing helps the seed propagate or also travel far. That's another way of saying it. How is your pine cone? I left the tiny bits here because I see that there's like almost like a scale there and also a lot of these goo. It's almost also, you know what it reminds me, these tiny things here? It looks like the tongue of a dragon too. And there we go. So I'm going to try to draw a dragon. Okay, it's a friendly dragon. It has, so far it looks like an alligator and it has teeth and it has a long tongue. That's what it reminds me of. Because it's a dragon, probably it has wings and tiny hands and tiny feet because I don't have time to draw a bigger dragon. That's my dragon. It reminds me of the tongue of a dragon. Also, not only dragons, but snakes have these type of tongues. They're called bifid. I don't know if I'm spelling this right. Bifid tongue. I think there's a Y somewhere. Bifid tongue. I think it might be this one. I think I need to go back to the dictionary. I don't know. I'm sorry. And my English is not my main language. So I sometimes have problems trying to find how to spell words. But this, what it means is like it's divided in two. I will definitely look these in the dictionary after I finish this and correct it. Okay, I want to add some color, please. I want to add some color right now. So I am going to use some brown and some orange and and I'm going to use, I think that's all I need really, brown and a little bit of orange, because I see that these little mice are a little bit lighter. So I'm going to start adding a little bit of my orange on the little mice, or bracts. I am so happy I learned that word because I didn't know. There's some scales that I didn't add it. I didn't, I was a little bit lazy and I didn't add a bract on every scale. So it is not scientifically accurate, but I think I'm okay with it. I'm going to be kind to myself because it's, yeah, we're learning together. So I'm just adding a little bit of color. Yeah, the wings look like holly. I totally thought the exact same thing because we just finished the holly one. So maybe I had that in my brain. maybe, maybe you're absolutely, I thought the exact same thing. Isn't that interesting? Now everything I draw is going to look like a holly. So one thing I want to do, and I want to make sure we do together, is that when we add the brown, we need to start very, 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 very light. Look at these two browns. Which one do you think I use the most? I know, right? So I'm going to use this one now so you can see it well. And I invite you to hold a pencil like this, and for details like this. And you're going to see that it makes a big difference. This is just an overall tone. I'm not worried about shadows on lights yet. And as you can see, when we use the pencil like this, we create a very, very interesting texture. We don't see the lines of the pencil. We definitely don't see the blue. It's like it has magically disappeared. I'm looking at the camera. I hope it's not. I'm going to put this here because otherwise it gets a little bit blurry. I apologize for that. Okay, so I'm just coloring, adding this brown around the bracts or tiny mice or goop or bifid tongues. Well, not bifid because, okay, so something I need to say, it's very important. Bi means two. So if it has, like the ones at the bottom, I only see two. Maybe they have three, but the middle one is very tiny. If it has three, then we need to say try. So yeah, if the tongue had 3 pieces, we need to put the right word before. So yeah, these are tri-fed tongues, or yeah, I think if I look closer, you see, that's why we need to look at things closer. Yeah, they might have 3, but yeah, there was one that only has 2. I don't know, maybe a mouse ate it. And now we're going to start. Oh, brown or light brown. Thank you for your question. It's just brown. It's just that I'm pressing very light. So you see, with the same color, I can press very hard, or I can press very light. And they look like totally different colors, totally different, but it's the same. So it's like you have so much power with just one color. So that's why I wanted to start very light. And now this is the fun. So we're going to go very dark where the scale meets the scale above. So see what I'm doing and then copy it. So this is the one that is on top. This one is going to stay this color, but the one right underneath, right where they meet, that's going to be super dark. And as I am going into the edge, I'm going to start lifting my pencil, my color, so I don't press as hard. And when I have reached the very edge, I am at the same color. Do you want to try it? Let's try the next one, the one underneath. Very hard there, and then lighter. And what's happening now is that the things that are on top of things are going to be lighter, and the things that are underneath are going to be darker. And that's exactly what's happening here. Do you see that darkness? That's because the light cannot go there. So let's do that. Oh, this is going to add a very nice effect. And you can turn your page because I know it's easy to turn the page. Also under the mice, there's going to be a little bit of darkness. But yeah, that's the trick. The areas that are right under a scale are a little bit darker. And you're going to be asking, what do we do with a mouse? What do we do with cheese mice? Well, you also add a little bit of brown. A little bit of brown on top, but not too much. Not as hard as the real brown, because this brown is going to blend with the yellow. So now the mouse is totally inside the pine cone. So let's do that, shall we? Let's add more dark brown, a little bit of brown on the mouse. And as you, I think the once you've done a couple, it becomes easier because you understand that you're just adding a little bit of shadow, because these bracts are very much inside. They are go right in. And it's this like super amazing exercise of patience. I'm using the same color, which is something I find so cool, that I'm just using the same color, and just by pressing lighter or darker, it's like magic. Because guess what? Like there's so many, like they sell these packs of like 50 colors, 80, and it's like, oh my. I like just having a few colors, and then I can mix them. And this one here at the bottom, that's the one that doesn't have much light. It's going to be overall a little bit darker. Well, I don't know you, but I can see how these mice are right inside. And it's very, very interesting. I'm going to use a little bit of a darker brown, because I also see that this is a shape. It has volume. So by adding a little bit of dark overall on one side, all over. Now don't worry about it. All over. Now we have an area that has light and an area that is a little bit darker. And what do we do with the stem? I'm going to draw right with my brown pencil. It's a little bit broken, but I'm just going to go directly with color and add the stem right there. Let's see. Let's observe a little bit more. Ooh, interesting. So it has also, oh, this is so interesting. So if I flip this, I'm going to use my graphite pencil. It has like this, very long, like very flexible too, like crazy hairs, very crazy hairs. I'm glad I rotated it, because otherwise I would have not seen it. It's like crazy hairs. I will go to the nature house and will ask them, because they know what these are. Ooh, that's cool. Just gonna color them a little bit in brown. They kind of remind me of the little mice, so they might be the same material. But yeah, and then you can also, if you want to go again another layer of shadow and light, you can totally do that. That's the shadow of these things. Whoa, that's our pine cone. What? I really, really want to add color to the tree, to the seed, and the mouse, and of course, Ariel and Lucy and the dragon. So I am going to write the title so I don't forget that today we drew the pine cone. Pine. Let's see if I have room. Pine cone. I might need to move. Okay, no, I was able to fit it there. Pine cone, woohoo! And one thing I need to write down is, let's see, each of these things is called a scale. And what are other awesome things that I found? Oh, yes. That these big pine cones are female. The male pine cones are super tiny and they just release pollen. So these ones that have the seed are the female pine cones. And I also learned that they can stay in the tree, in the tree, like the pine cone stays there on the tree, even up to 10 years before they fall. So that's amazing. Every time I touch the little sticky resin, I put a little bit of color. So yeah, I'm excited. I wanna color my pine. Also, there's a very good word that I would like to write down, because you have noticed that there are very different types of trees. One kind of tree, older leaves, they change color and they fall down. But pine trees, they don't. They remain evergreen. Isn't that a nice word? Evergreen. So evergreens are all these plants that keep their leaves even throughout the winter. There's another word. See, I think I know how to spell this properly. I think it has two N's. Is perennial. It's another fancy word to say the same thing, as opposed to the trees whose leaves fall. So yeah, those are interesting. I'm gonna just color a little bit of the tree, the spine, and a little bit of the grass. The seeds are interesting. I actually, you know what? I'm going to do something crazy while you follow up with the drawing. I'm going to try to get a seed from the cedar pine cone. What? Oh my gosh! This is so cool. Okay, we need to draw this. We absolutely need to draw this. Look at these guys. So, oh wow, this is so cool. This is cool. I'm going to put a piece of paper so you can see it. So I cracked open this pine cone, and each of the scales has exactly what we drew, the seed. So there it is. Woohoo! This is so exciting. There it is. That is a different shape because this is a Douglas fir and that was a spruce. I think it's a cedar. So yeah, let's draw that, shall we? Oh, that's so exciting. I didn't know I could crack that open. This is so exciting. That's the seed shape, but I'm going to draw it here. I don't have any room. It's like a triangle. It's like a triangle. And the seed is right here. And this whole thing is the wing. And even, you know what? It's bent. And wow, when I touch it, it's like a wing of an insect. It's very thin. It's like paper. That is so cool. So that is the cedar seed. plus the wing. Ah, this is so cool. I wish you were here so I can give you all these. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Ah, look at all these seeds. This is it. This is crazy. Okay, let's go back to the drawing. I'm so happy that you got to see that. I'm gonna leave it here. So if you see a pine cone, you can bring it home in a plastic bag. Make sure it doesn't come with any friends like insects. Yeah, that you might get a little bit of a spider as well. So keep an eye on it. But oh, and it has little holes too. That is so pretty. I'm just gonna, it has like little holes I can see through. Yeah, you can collect. I love collecting pine cones. Yeah, and it's like very nice lines as well. I'm so happy we got to see them for real. And then that's the seed there, and it's a little bit darker brown. And it also has a little bit of dark. So that's kind of like the real seed. And I promised you I was going to show you before we ended. We haven't ended yet, but I promised you I would show you our experiment. What happened with this pine cone that I put on water? So hold and behold that this pine cone, I'm going to try not to put it on the drawing. But look, it has closed. So it's true. When they're in contact with cold or with water and humidity, they close. And as it dries, it will open again. So it worked. It totally worked. I'm going to leave it more in water so it continues closing totally, because I want to continue adding a little bit of color. But yeah, that's so cool. I'm going to add some color to the little mouse. I don't know if I have a pink. Yay, I have a pink. And I think my mouse, I don't know you, but I would like my mouse to be a little bit blue, because he likes that color. And everything that you add color, you can press harder, so you can create areas of shadow and areas of light. And this tiny tail, the same thing. If I press harder, I create a very nice, I lost my lead. Let me sharpen my color pencil. And if you have crayons, everything applies is exactly the same. Pressing harder makes the color darker, and pressing lighter gives you so much room to do things, to build up. And if you have lost a little bit of the lines when you were adding color, you can go back with your graphite on top and redraw the things that might have gotten lost. Because yeah, after all, we're just adding and adding. Sometimes you lose some shapes, so you can go back, and I will work on this even after we're done. So I post a nice finished drawing. And you should totally send your drawings to the nature park, because they love to see what you do, and they send it to me, and I love seeing what you do. I'm just drawing a little bit of color into Lucy and into Ariel. And let's see the time, 11:50. I'm going to put a link of where I am going to paste to put all the recordings of today, the pine cone and the holly and all the others that we've done. All of them are there, all the recordings. So you can watch them, and you will hear me asking for questions. You will not be able to ask for questions because it's a recording, but you have the whole project there. I put the illustrations and material, so I hope that's useful. There we go. I like using the same colors that I use for my drawing into the title. What else? Oh, Ariel needs a green tail, of course. It is nice to draw a mermaid when you're doing a pine cone, eh? I didn't know that was going to be what I was going to end drawing. A mermaid. Because it's so much fun when things look like things that you already know. And I like to always ask myself, what does it remind me of? Maybe it reminds you of a house or a car or a leaf. Oh, thank you so much for your feedback. So we're having a thank you. Well, thank you, because I think it's very sunny outside. So to stay indoors drawing with me, I know it's hard. So I hope I'm very grateful, and I hope you have time to go outside as well. I'm going to go with my sketchbook and I'm going to draw dogs in the park. There are always a lot of dogs. So this is my pine cone. I'm so happy that I got to crack this cedar pine cone open, because I got to see all the seeds. Look at them. They're so amazing. So yeah, if you find the cedar pine cone, keep it at home for a couple of days and then crack it open and you get all these amazing seeds. So yeah, I'm so happy that we got to draw together today, Saturday, and I really hope that you have a very nice and warm and safe end of the year. And I cannot wait to draw together in 2022. So thank you very much, and please be safe and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.